Today on the Daily Scoop podcast from the Scoop News Group, the Pentagon's Joint Staff wants an AI chief, and there's work to be done on AI-ready data standards for the federal government. It's Friday, June 28th, 2024. Welcome to the Daily Scoop podcast, where you'll hear the latest news and trends facing government leaders. I'm the host of the Daily Scoop podcast, Billy Mitchell. Here are today's top headlines. The Defense Department's Joint Staff is considering an internal office dedicated to helping the organization leverage emerging AI capabilities. The Joint Staff stood up an AI task force in February, comprised of staff members from across the entire organization. And recently it completed a 90-day sprint to examine use cases for artificial intelligence applications, as well as long-term organizational structures needed within the Joint Staff for sustaining AI-enabled capabilities. That's according to Lieutenant General Todd Isaacson, Director for the Joint Staff's J6 Command, Control, Communications, Computers, and Cyber Bureau. As a result, the organization now wants its own in-house Chief Digital and Artificial Intelligence Office, Isaacson said Thursday during a keynote at AFCEA's TechNet conference in Baltimore. Isaacson said his team is, quote, looking at ways to reorganize the Joint Staff to get after what I think is some open field running and a real opportunity for us to continue to evolve. While he didn't share any information regarding when the Joint Staff might try to stand up a CDAO office, the intent represents a trend happening across the Pentagon regarding AI. The entire department is exploring how AI and machine learning technologies can be used for military applications, including day-to-day administrative tasks, data management assistance, and operations. The Joint Staff's AI task force also conducted an internal review where they assessed the workflows of all 8 directorates, analyzing them in a decomposed state, Isaacson said. The goal was to understand where existing AI-enabled capabilities from the commercial sector could be used to streamline the organization's processes, he said, noting that that also includes generative AI technology. In other news, developing standards for data so that it can be better understood by AI models is an area where more government efforts are needed, according to the Department of Commerce's top data officer. While the Biden administration's executive order on the technology and the Office of Management and Budget's corresponding memo cover a lot of ground, Oliver Wise, the Department of Commerce's chief data officer, said this week that there's work yet to be done on spelling out standards of what AI-ready data really means. Wise, who was speaking on a panel at Scale's GovAI Summit on Tuesday, highlighted efforts by a working group within Commerce to address that issue. The AI and Open Government Data Assets Working Group is soliciting input from the public on potential guidelines for AI-ready government data through a request for information and hopes to publish its findings by the end of the year. Comments on the RFI must be received before July 16th. Currently, the standard for publishing public data is machine readability, Wise said. That machine readability standard was enshrined into federal law in the Foundations for Evidence-Based Policymaking Act, also known as the Open Government Data Act. OMB has also yet to issue further guidance on a portion of that legislation, which became law in 2019. Wise said, quote, we believe that machine readability is a necessary but not sufficient condition to meet user expectations in the AI era. And that means going beyond having data in a CSV format or common standard and having data that is machine understandable, he said, adding that a policy shift is needed across the federal, state, and local governments on what should be that standard for public data dissemination in the AI era. For now, those standards are best off as something voluntary, Wise said. For its part, the working group will put out a report by the end of the year, he said, but that won't be dispositive. Going forward, he said this is an era that needs sustained investment so that the government can research standards and evolve with industry as new innovations are developed. For more news at the intersection of the federal government and technology, visit fedscoop.com. Thanks again for tuning in to another episode of the Daily Scoop podcast, available on all podcast platforms. If you've already rated the podcast on your platform of choice, thanks so much. High ratings and good reviews of the show help more people to find it. The Daily Scoop podcast is a production of the Scoop News Group in Washington, D.C. Adam Butler and Carlin Fisher help put the show together, and the entire Scoop News Group team contributes. We'll be back next week with more top headlines. Until then, I'm your host, Billy Mitchell. Thanks so much for listening.